about prominence and status, seeking prominence and status with the people and seeking to be seen and heard by the people. Tonight we're going to talk about that again, but from a slightly different angle, which is talking about the cure or the remedy for such things. And if I can comment, it seems timely, given what we just were hearing. So to start, I'm summarizing what the Sheikh said because it was longer in Arabic than in the translation, and there's a lot of points, so we're going to keep it brief. One of the first points that the Sheikh Ahmed ibn Qudama rahmatullahi alayhi had made was he brought to reminder for us a hadith that he had narrated earlier in the book, which is, and I'm going to paraphrase the hadith, which is that the evil craving for wealth and status is more dangerous to a person's deen, to a person's religion, than if you were to release two hungry wolves amidst a flock of sheep. Craving after wealth and status is more detrimental to our deen than if you were to release wolves into a flock of sheep. I think most of us, even if we've never shepherded a flock of sheep, we can envision the gore fest that would take place the minute you release these wolves into the flock of sheep. There would be a very wealthy dinner for them to have, and they would make short order of many of these sheep. It essentially would be their death. So what he's alluding to is the idea that craving after wealth and status, it can be the very death of our deen. Yani individually, we're not talking yani ummah-wide, although if the ummah falls into this trap, then of course it becomes detrimental to the ummah. Craving after wealth and status is so very detrimental, and so we need to know how do we deal with it. Amongst the things that the Sheikh said, he mentioned that there are two things that need to be kept in mind when it comes to this. One is to have knowledge regarding this evil craving of wealth and status. The second is to have certain actions in terms of this wealth and status, craving after wealth and status. In the matter of the knowledge that we should have, amongst the things that he alluded to was that we should be mindful of, and I think this is especially relevant to what we were just hearing, we should be mindful of the danger to ourselves and our spiritual status of what craving after status and wealth and prominence, in that in order to maintain that, we may do things and say things that go beyond the bounds. We may behave in ways that we know are incorrect, and thereby expose ourselves to greater harm because we're craving after this thing that is beyond our need. In fact, begins to fall into the area of harm, spiritual harm. And so we say and do whatever it takes to hold on to that status, to hold on to our position, to hold on to our appearance of authority, to hold on to whatever. And again, I want to make it clear, this just happened to be the topic tonight. It isn't that this was designed to comment on what was just said. It just happens to be, mashallah, directly relevant. And this, subhanAllah, this is the sirah of Allah in His creation, is that He brings things at the moment they need it. This was not planned. Many of you know this. We're going through this book page by page. This just happened to be the next page. What we do to hang on to those things is so detrimental to us sometimes. We do whatever it takes. We say whatever it takes. We do whatever it takes without any concern for consequences or with any concern for right or wrong. We need to be mindful of this so that we understand when we're going after wealth and status. And he makes the point earlier that all craving of wealth and status is not bad. There is a boundary, there is a balance. But evil craving of wealth and status is where we start to fall into these things, where we start to go beyond bounds. And we start to lose our balance spiritually and say and do whatever it takes to attain and then sustain what it is that we've taken, perhaps even by force. So this is the knowledge, one of the aspects of knowledge we should have. The aspect of behavior, the matters of actions that he mentions is that we have to be mindful of balance in the way we carry ourselves. The example he gives is of the Zahid, the one who tries to live a life that is detached from the dunya, saying that a person of this quality, of this nature, should be cautious to not stay away from the people so much that they never see him, and so he attains this almost cult-like status. He becomes this spiritual, I can't even think of the right word for it, but he becomes almost a legend. He's so unique, he's so special, he stays away from the people, he's on a pillar somewhere, unattainable to us. And so his status is exaggerated, and the people, they look after him and they respond to him and they react to him in a way that is beyond the bounds. And this is in the control of the individual because they could make a decision. And what he tells me, he says, you should go about taking care of your own needs. You should go to the marketplaces, you should go to the stores and take care of your needs, you should buy your groceries, you should do these things, etc. And let the people see this so that they understand it's to bring you down to a human level. So that you're not at this inhuman status of this superlative, this angelic figure, this spiritual superlative that is unattainable. This is the attitude that we get sometimes regarding some of the spiritual paragons, is that we feel like, how can we ever hope to achieve what they achieved? And this is the thing, we need to always strike balance. This is throughout the deen, this idea of deen al-wasat, the moderate middle path, the middle way. This is the deen, is we want to be righteous, but we don't want to be so righteous that we seem, as we say in the West, holier than thou. Because that detaches you from the people. The Prophet, and if anybody was holier than thou, it was the Prophet ﷺ. But he was a man of the people. He interacted with them, he joked with them, he played with them, he ate, everything. He was of the people, but yet he still was holier than anyone that has ever walked the face of the earth. There's a balance, and we always must strike that balance so that we don't fall into this status. And we can perpetuate these things by doing this, by restraining, or if you are too much engaged with the people. Same thing, it's a question of balance. Not being too much of this, too much of that, but always striking the balance between the appearance of religiosity and the appearance of sinfulness. You have to strike that balance so that and we talked about last week how earnestly, inshallah, we'll end on this, how earnestly the true scholars and the true righteous would keep their deeds hidden. They would try to hide the good that they do as much as possible so that it remained between them and Allah. And that if at all possible, we should all have a time and a ritual, if you will, of worship that is between us and Allah, that not even our families know. So that the prominence we have is with Allah. If we have no prominence whatsoever, and one of the brothers, they mentioned a couple of the companions that were known to be unknown. People, there's one hadith of the Prophet, the gist of it was that there's individuals in this ummah who no one pays any heed to when they speak. If they propose to a woman, it'll be rejected. If they're in a room, they'll be unnoticed, but they're known and recognized by Allah, and their dua is responded to. They're unknown to the people. If you remember, and I'll close with this, the hadith of the Prophet that we mentioned last week, that inna Allahu yuhibbul abd at-taqi al-ghani al-khafi. That certainly Allah loves the slave that is taqi, fearful and conscious of Allah in every circumstance, in every condition. That is al-ghani, has ghina. Ghina, wealth, but not wealth in the way that we think of wealth. Ghina an-nafs, as the Prophet ﷺ told us, that true ghina, true wealth is ghina an-nafs, satisfaction, the wealth of the heart that is satisfied. And then al-khafi, to be hidden, to be unknown. So the people don't know you. Is that really so bad? Yani if Allah knows you, if Allah loves you, and we mentioned, the Prophet mentioned where He talks about when Allah loves a slave, he announces it to Jibreel. And then Jibreel announces it to the heavens. Ahlul Jannah, and he announces it to them, and they all love that person. And then they begin singing the praises of this person so much that the love descends into the earth until even the people on earth, they love this person. So if Allah truly loves you, love will eventually descend for you. But the people's opinion of us, Allah's opinion of us is what's important. And if we can maintain that balance in our minds, then the whims, the fickle whims of people will be less important to us. We live in the dunya, we have to take it into account to a certain degree, but the whims of people should not be uppermost. Allahu ta'ala alam. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.